You're exhausted. Every day you wake up fighting. Fighting to get ahead. Fighting to prove yourself. Fighting to control outcomes you can't actually control. You've been told that success requires hustle, that winners never quit, that if you're not grinding, you're falling behind. But what if everything you've been taught about achievement is backwards? What if the secret to winning isn't trying harder, but trying less? There's an ancient philosophy that understood something modern productivity culture keeps missing, something that athletes discover when they're performing at their absolute peak, something that happens when time seems to slow down and everything just flows. The Chinese called it Wu Wei. We call it the zone, or flow state. And once you understand how it works, you'll never look at effort the same way again. Let me tell you about an ancient text called the Tao Te Ching, written somewhere around 2,500 years ago. Maybe. Nobody knows for sure when was it written. In fact, nobody even knows if the author actually existed. His name was supposedly Lao Tzu, but even that's disputed. Here's what we do know. This mysterious book became one of the most translated works in human history, second only to the Bible. Why? Because it contains something that cuts through time, something that works whether you're an ancient Chinese emperor or a modern entrepreneur staring at your laptop at 2 a.m., wondering why you're so tired despite working so hard. The core idea is simple but strange. There's a natural flow to things. The Taoists called it the Tao, the way, the current. And your job isn't to control that current. Your job is to stop fighting it. So what is the Tao? That's the thing. You can't really explain it. The Tao Te Ching opens with this paradox. The Tao that can be described is not the real Tao. The name that can be spoken is not the eternal name. The moment you try to capture it in words, you've already missed it. It's like trying to describe what water tastes like to someone who's never experienced water. You can use all the words you want, but the knowing only comes through direct experience. What we can say is this: the Tao is the underlying force that moves through everything. It's beyond what our senses can detect, beyond what our minds can fully grasp. But you can align with it. You can feel it. You can move with it instead of against it. And when you do, something remarkable happens. Effort becomes effortless. There's an old story about a cook named Ting. He worked for a lord who noticed something unusual. When this cook prepared meat, it looked like a dance. His movements looked smooth, graceful, and almost meditative. So the Lord asked him about his technique. The cook put down his knife and said something profound. He said he doesn't focus on skill anymore. He focuses on the way. When he first started, all he could see was the animal in front of him. A big, complicated problem to solve. After 3 years, he stopped seeing the whole animal. He started seeing spaces, openings, the natural structure underneath. Now he doesn't even look with his eyes. He moves with his spirit. His perception has quieted down, and his spirit moves where it wants to move. He explained it like this: he follows the natural makeup. He strikes in the big hollows. He guides the knife through the natural openings. He never touches ligament or tendon. His knife never hits bone. Here's the remarkable part. He'd been using the same knife for 19 years. And what about the other cooks? The other cooks replaced their knives every year because they cut. Average cooks replaced their knives every month because they hacked. But Cook Ting's knife was still sharp, because he never forced anything. He found the path of least resistance every single time. This is flow. This is Wu Wei. This is what happens when you stop trying so hard and start moving with the current instead of against it. Western culture teaches us to power through the things, to force results, to work harder when things aren't working. We admire grit. We celebrate hustle. We glorify the grind. Meanwhile, we're burning out at unprecedented rates. We have anxiety disorders, depression, sleep problems. We have exhaustion that rest doesn't fix. Maybe we've got it backwards. Look at nature. Does a tree strain to grow? Does a river force itself downhill? Does the ocean anxiously push the tides? Things happen. Growth occurs. Movement continues. But not through force. It happens through natural unfolding. The Taoists understood something we've forgotten. Results aren't proportional to effort. Results are the consequence of aligned action. Most of the time, we're swimming against the current and we don't even know it. Our mind wants control. It thinks control equals survival. But this is kind of arrogant when you think about it. You don't control your digestion. You don't control your heartbeat. You don't control how your body heals a cut. You don't control other people. You don't control the future. You don't even control who you're attracted to. Everything just moves in some direction, sometimes guided by intelligence, mostly by natural flow. When you stop resisting, you align with that flow. You take the path of least resistance. You let nature unfold instead of constantly trying to bend it to your will. This doesn't mean doing nothing. It means navigating intelligently instead of forcing blindly. The Taoists were obsessed with water. Why? Because water perfectly demonstrates their philosophy. Water is soft, yielding, and humble. It always seeks the lowest places, the unpopular places, the spaces nobody else wants. It has no agenda, no ambition, no plan, yet it nourishes everything it touches. It's the ultimate life force, doing essential work without any need for recognition. And here's the paradox. Water is the softest substance and the most yielding, but nothing overcomes hardness better than water. Given enough time, water erodes rock, carves canyons, and shapes mountains, not through force, but through persistent gentleness. The Tao Te Ching says it perfectly. The supreme good is like water. It benefits all of creation without trying to compete with it. This is the secret. Softness defeats hardness. Yielding overcomes rigid. Gentle, persistent action accomplishes what aggressive force cannot. Think about the last time you were completely absorbed in something. Maybe you were playing a sport, creating art, writing or dancing, even playing a video game. When you're truly in flow, one thing vanishes completely. And it only comes back when your thinking mind takes control again. The focus on results. When you're in the zone, you're not worried about outcomes. You're not anxious about the future. You're not dwelling on past mistakes. You're just here, now, completely present with what you're doing. Athletes describe it as time slowing down, everything becoming clear. The moves happen before the athletes consciously think about them. Basketball player Bill Russell described it perfectly. He said it felt like playing in slow motion. He could sense how the next play would develop before it happened. That's not supernatural. That's what happens when the thinking mind gets out of the way and lets your natural intelligence take over. And what is the only way to access this state? It is by letting go. Letting go of control. Letting go of the past. Letting go of the future. Stop swimming against the current. Stop grabbing onto branches out of fear. Just let yourself move with the water. Life is like a river. The river already has a course, or several possible courses. When you find yourself in that river, you have three options. You can swim against the current, exhausting yourself, and making minimal progress. And fighting the inevitable, you can grab onto a branch, holding on out of fear, stuck in place. You'll be safe, but going nowhere. Or you can let go, trust the current, and move with the flow. Most people spend their entire lives doing the first two, swimming against what is, and clinging to what was, and wondering why they're so tired. Here's the truth. The vast majority of life is not in your control. Your body knows how to heal itself. Your mind knows how to solve problems. The universe knows how to unfold. Your job isn't to micromanage all of that. Your job is to navigate skillfully, to steer when steering is needed, to rest when rest is needed, to know when to act and when to allow. This is the path of least resistance. This is swimming with the current instead of against it. This is Wu Wei, the philosophy of effortless action, the philosophy of the action of non-action. So how do you actually do this? You quiet the mind, you curb the senses, you become humble, you stop striving, not permanently, not forever, just long enough to open yourself to what's actually happening instead of what you think should be happening. This doesn't mean sitting in meditation all day, though that can help. It means bringing that stillness into action, moving from a quiet center, acting without the constant commentary of the anxious mind. When you do this, your actions become precise, efficient, and graceful. You're not wasting energy forcing things. You're using just enough effort to guide outcomes, like Cook Ting finding the natural openings instead of hacking through bone. You start to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible to your striving mind. You stop competing and start creating. You stop forcing and start flowing. Here's what I want you to sit with. What if your exhaustion isn't from not working hard enough? What if it's from working against the current instead of with it? What if the very thing you think will save you, constant striving, is actually what's drowning you? The Taoists understood 25 centuries ago what we're just beginning to remember. Softness defeats hardness. Yielding overcomes rigid. The path of least resistance is often the path of greatest results. You don't need to force life to happen. You need to let it unfold. You don't need to control everything. You need to navigate intelligently. You don't need to try harder. You need to align better. The question isn't whether you can do this. The question is whether you're willing to let go enough to find out. The current is already there. The flow already exists. You're just deciding whether to fight it or move with it. What will you choose?